That should be set up. Ah, man. This is about to be a whole mess. I got my laptop here. Afterwards, I'm gonna need to do a few things after the stream. Oh boy. Okay. Let's see here. All right. I don't even know where to begin, man. I ain't gonna lie. This is oh my god, this is so much, bro. This is so much. Actually, I knew I had to be here today because it was gonna be the official start to free agency, so I knew craziness was gonna ensue. But damn, bro, I ain't gonna lie. I'd like one of those days off, man. Oh my goodness, bro. But man, where do we go from here? Only the Ravens, man. Only the Ravens. Only the Ravens. Only the Ravens. Okay. Let's get into this. Ladies and gentlemen, let me move my mic up here. Alright. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, what is up? What is good? What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are enjoying your day. Only the Ravens, man. Only the Ravens. I swear to God, we can't have anything normal here. How do I put this? The Ravens, just like they want to, because I think they, if you remember a long time ago, I'm pretty sure it was against Denver too. When Terrell Suggs, yeah, it was like I think pretty sure it was the Denver game in the playoffs against Denver in 2012, the year he won the Super Bowl, when he was talking with the crowd, man. And Terrell Suggs said it, man. We love being the bad guys. Ravens love being the bad guys, man. And it seems like with the events that have occurred over the last 24 hours, the Ravens have probably put themselves in a very, very fun status. Baltimore is now seen as one of the most hated teams by many fans across the league. And many fans are hoping that the Ravens would suffer penalties for things that were completely legal, as well as have them deal with some serious bad karma because of the situation. All in all, Baltimore has turned from you know, one of the more relatively hated teams because the Ravens have always gotten hate. That's just how it's been. They've always had a lot of hate from a good chunk of teams, but it's never been anything major. So they go from that aspect to being one of the most hated teams in football today, all because of this situation. The last 24 hours of this situation has been crazy. So we were here yesterday talking about this situation. Yesterday, the Ravens backed out of the Max Crosby trade. And I sat here last night with you guys and we discussed what this probably means. And I brought up the scenarios and said, Baltimore is now in scramble mode. They're in desperation mode. If you're going to get your 2 first-round draft picks back, then you still have to make this work by going and getting yourself a pass rusher. I actively sat here and said, if this team is looking to make a quick fix or at least some sort of consolation prize, if they want to really lean into that desperation mode and go get a quick solution, then Trey Hendrickson was going to be the answer. I told you guys that yesterday. I said the Ravens were going to immediately pivot, get Trey Hendrickson. They're going to clear up some cap space, and they're going to start making some signings and moves. And because they got their draft picks back, Baltimore may still try and make another big move. They may still look to make another big move. Now, on the live stream yesterday, we said that other big move could potentially be them trying to appease Lamar Jackson by going and getting him A.J. Brown. I still think that is something that could potentially be in play, but in all honesty, I would prefer not to give up a lot of draft capital to get AJ Brown, which is exactly what you would have to do because Howie Roseman is not giving up AJ Brown for something light. He wants a finesse deal, and I don't think the Ravens want to be involved in that situation. But again, desperate times call for desperate measures. I did say those are the two desperate moves they could make. Not saying it would be bad moves, not saying those moves can't pay off, but it's the type of moves that you may have to make if there's nothing else here. Now, the Ravens ended up making one of those moves. We'll get into that in a second. But in terms of the other move, it's still up for grabs. It's still something they can potentially do. But they may actually be pivoting towards something else because we got a whole wave of information. All day, the focus today was nothing short of conversation after conversation after conversation about Max Crosby and the Ravens and what led to the deal being broken down and how the Ravens look slimy as an organization for doing this, to back down. They're going to regret this, or they shouldn't have done this, or they dodged a bullet. So many different perspectives. They talk about how the Raiders are feeling in the situation. They end up losing significantly here because they don't get the draft capital that they wanted to help utilize to help rebuild their team. They signed a lot of great players, but they really wanted those 2 first-round draft picks that could have done massive damage for them this year and next year, and now they lose out on those draft picks. It is crazy. Today has been completely insane in terms of the amount of media coverage that has followed suit with this, especially because early on in the morning, the Ravens went and got Trey Hendrickson, which completely changed the entire aspect. Before all the shows can even get things started, the Ravens got him way early in the morning, so all of a sudden the conspiracy theories can come up, the stories can come up, what led to the Ravens doing what they did. Oh my goodness, bro. It was a whole wave of things. And to make things even crazier, Eric DeCosta had a press conference on NFL Network at 5 p.m. Okay. He had a press conference because of the situation, which just felt like it was damage control because the things that many were saying about the Ravens organization was not good things. And people felt that the Ravens could end up losing out. Not even losing out, but they could end up being severely impacted by this because their relationships with other GMs and agents could be impacted by this. Whether that was true or not, people were talking about that. That was a conversation. It felt like EDC had to come out and speak on this situation to kind of do damage control because of how the Ravens were looking after this deal. It still doesn't take away from people's feelings about it, but it does a decent job in minimizing the blow because we got somewhat of an explanation in terms of what they were looking for. And at the end of the day, on one hand, it minimized the blow, but on the other hand, it just opened up a whole new Pandora's box of people speculating whether or not EDC is telling the truth or if this is just a cover-up deal because he doesn't want to get caught for actually being slimy and he's using this as an excuse. There's a whole thing. So I guess we got to start from the top. All right, so yesterday we talked about Max Crosby heading back to the Raiders. He failed his physical with the Ravens, so the Ravens backed out of the deal, and they sent him back and got their 2 first-round picks back. So, you know, if the Ravens, if they end up not doing anything with those first-round picks, unfortunately, I'm gonna be here for the draft. You guys don't understand. I was looking I was so happy that I didn't have to do the draft this year. I was looking forward to not having to stream the draft because the Ravens didn't have the draft pick. They didn't have a first rounder. I was not gonna sit here for the draft. I was looking forward to it because I've been here the last couple of years streaming the draft, and my God, is it a hassle? It's 4 hours of streaming just to see where certain picks or certain players are gonna go. I was looking forward to not having to stream the draft because the Ravens didn't have a first round pick. I was chilling. And now all of a sudden, I got to hear, so who are the Ravens going to get with the 14th pick? I'm still holding out hope the Ravens trade that first round pick and go get an impactful player. But, you know, that's a different conversation for a different day. Anywho, the Ravens pivoted quickly. Max Crosby failed his physical, and so the Ravens backed out the deal. We got the first notification of the Ravens backing out of the deal by the Las Vegas Raiders. This was not reported by Schefter or Rappaport or anybody else. The first notification we got that the Ravens backed out of the deal was from a social media post from the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders were the first ones to say the Ravens backed out of the deal. No further information given after that. Well, once the Raiders said that, all eyes pointed directly towards Baltimore. Why did you back out of the deal? This is where the speculations began. Trey Hendrickson was still available. He was still available in free agency. His market wasn't what he thought it would be. He thought he would get at the very least $30 million a year. That was the floor. That's why he left Cincinnati. Cincinnati was not willing to pay him what he felt he wanted to get. He wanted to get more than $30 million a year. $30 million was the floor. He was trying to get more than that. Multi-year deal averaging over $30 million a year. The market said no. That's not what you're going to get. Nobody's paying that type of money for you. So when Baltimore backed out of the deal, the conspiracy that came out was that the Ravens did not feel comfortable sticking with this deal because of what they lost. First day of free agency, they lost 6 players. 2 of those players they really wanted to keep in Isaiah Likely and especially Tyler Linderbaum. They lost a significant amount of their free agents, guys that they wanted to keep. So now you don't have your center, and you've lost a lot of pieces on the offense. And you don't have that first round pick, and you don't have next year's first round pick. But you got Max Crosby, who's going to be 29, and he's coming off of an injury and just had surgery recently and should be on time to be back by the time training camp starts at the very least. He was on time in terms of his recovery process. The expectation was he was going to play this year and be fine. But the conspiracy in this aspect, the theory goes, the Ravens saw how bad things went early on in free agency. They saw Trey Hendrickson was not getting the market he thought he could get. He was not getting that 30-plus million market because the Bengals were willing to offer him around $30 million. He thought he could get more than $30 million. That's why he left. 30 was the floor. It was the floor. It wasn't the ceiling. $30 million was the floor from Trey Hendrickson. Him and his agent wanted $30-plus million. Cincinnati was not going to give him $30-plus million. They were willing to give him $30 million, but they weren't trying to give him $30-plus million. That's why he went out to be a free agent. But things weren't going the way he thought it would go. So his market started to dip significantly. And because it started to dip significantly, many speculate that the Ravens decided it'd be better if we pull out of this, get our 2 first-round picks back, pivot to Trey Hendrickson, get him, and then have those draft picks to either try to go make another big move or use that 14 pick to go get that offensive lineman that they're going to need or a pass rusher that can add to this unit or something. Either use the 14 pick or use it in another trade that could potentially bring another impactful player so you can maximize what you can get here. So many are speculating the Ravens decided to back out of this deal. They had cold feet, backed out of this deal so they could get Trey Hendrickson for cheaper. That was the assessment because we did not know exactly what was going on. Then we get information a little bit later on that Max Crosby had failed his physical. And the Ravens had taken a look at his medical history and something that they had seen or something they had heard because they were getting a lot of information from outside factors, doctors that had had information regarding the situation. I think there was a doctor that was associated with the Cowboys or the same person that gave the Cowboys their information. He spoke on this, and I guess the Ravens spoke out to him as well. And based off of the information he gave about the situation, long-term, the Ravens did not feel comfortable moving forward and taking this risk with Max Crosby long-term. Short-term, it's all good. Long-term, they did not feel comfortable taking that risk. So because they didn't feel comfortable taking that risk and because he failed his physical, Baltimore backed out of the deal. As the day would go on, we would get more and more information. There's reports that the Ravens tried to make this work. They really wanted to keep Crosby, so they actually went back to renegotiate the capital that was going to be given up for Max Crosby because at this point, after everything they had heard about what could be or what the situation could be for Max Crosby long-term, the risk was too much for them, or at least they felt the risk was too much for them to take, so they chose to want to go back to the Raiders and see if we could instead maybe I can give you this year's first, but let me get next year's first back. You can take a second round pick. They wanted to renegotiate what the package would be. The Raiders were dead set on sticking with the original deal that they agreed on. 2 first round picks. We're not changing it. You had already agreed to the deal, 2 first round picks. The Ravens wanted to modify that. The Raiders were not interested in modifying that. So because the Raiders did not budge and the Ravens got scared and did not feel comfortable about whatever they were hearing from the doctors long term, the Ravens backed out of the deal. Now, we're going to find out. We're going to find out moving forward what scared the Ravens. We're going to find out. I don't know what's going to happen with Max Crosby over the next few years. If he's out there balling out and doing his thing, people going to really look at the Ravens and say, you chose not to keep him over that. Maybe you did collude, or maybe you did, try the finesse here because you wanted to go get a guy on a cheaper deal. People will believe those conspiracy theories if Max Crosby moving forward is the same dominant force he's always been and the injury situation doesn't linger with him. But in the next few years, if he starts dealing with injuries, the same injuries that the Ravens were afraid of, then it would make a lot more sense and people would probably calm down in terms of how they're viewing the Ravens right now and say, yeah, in hindsight, the Ravens probably dodged a bullet by not taking Max Crosby. But we won't know until we see how things progress for him. Either way, he's back in Las Vegas. The Raiders right now, they're deciding whether or not they want to keep him or still try to shop him. I think the Raiders, for now, they're going to keep him. If there's somebody that's willing to match the offer that they initially proposed, 2 first-round picks, they'll look to trade him because the Raiders really want those 2 first-round picks. I don't think they'll trade him for anything else. And they already said they're going to honor the contracts they gave to everybody. So anybody that still thinks the pipe dream of getting back Tyler Linderbaum is up in the air, no. They're going to re-sign Tyler Linderbaum. Not re-sign. They're going to sign, not re-sign. They're going to sign Tyler Linderbaum to the deal he initially agreed to, so he will be getting $27 million a year. All the free agents they signed on day one, they will be signing. They're going to honor their contracts, and they'll still have enough money left to be able to keep Max Crosby and take that hit in the cap. They would obviously prefer if they can get 2 first-round picks and trade him. But I don't know if there's another team that's willing to give that up. There were reports the Bears initially were willing to give up 2 first-round picks, but Baltimore won the deal because they have the 14th pick. If Chicago's still interested, they can throw those 2 first-round picks up there, and the Raiders will take that in a flash. But based off of everything that may be happening in this situation, this might have scared a lot of people off. A lot of teams may be scared off by what happened. If the Ravens were willing to pull out of a deal for Max Crosby because of what they heard from the medical standpoint long-term for his status, that might be enough to scare a lot of teams. And if the Raiders aren't willing to minimize or back down on how much they want back, if they're not willing to compromise and say, okay, give me a first and a second or something like that, if they're not willing to do that, I don't think they're going to get this done. And if they don't get it done, they will just keep Max Crosby. It is what it is. But yeah, pundits were going off today. There was a lot of brutal things that were said about the Ravens. An incredible amount of brutal statements were made about the Ravens, calling them a slimy organization, a scummy organization, calling EDC the scummiest GM in the National Football League. Ravens doing a lot of Bush League stuff. Just a disgusting organization that found a way to take advantage of the tampering period that you get between Monday and Wednesday. They took advantage of the opportunity here. They finesse this situation to get a guy on a cheaper deal while also getting their picks back. And they also put the Raiders in a compromising situation at the same time. They're horrible. There's so many things that have been said about the Ravens today. It's been brutal. The Ravens' reputation took a massive hit today. And like I said, they are now viewed as a villainous team. If you felt they weren't viewed as a villainous team before, they are certainly viewed as a villainous team now. There are a plethora of fan bases that actively hate this team now. So, I mean, you're already at the AFC North that already hated us, which is to be expected. We're rivals. And then you have the Bills that you want to add to that. Might as well add Buffalo. Obviously, they're obsessed with us, just like some of our guys are obsessed with them, which is why I don't interact with either of our fan bases. I prefer not to interact with Ravens fans that want to waste their time talking about Buffalo. And I don't interact with Bills fans like that because I'm not a Bills fan. I could care less what's happening with Buffalo. Though the ones I have interacted with have been pretty chill. It's just, the social media guys are the most annoying guys to deal with. So I just ignore them. There's no point. But yeah, AFC North, Bills have hatred for the Ravens. The Giants have hatred for the Ravens because of the John Harbaugh situation. The Cowboys got some hatred for the Ravens. The Bears apparently got some hatred for the Ravens, which is funny how that came out of nowhere. And the Colts probably got some hatred for us now because we stole Trey Hendrickson. It was reported that Hendrickson was heavily considering going to the Colts and was most likely going to sign a deal with the Colts before this Max Crosby deal fell down and the Ravens immediately pivot to go get Hendrickson. So Colts fans probably hate us as well. Who else? Raiders fans for sure hate us. I mean, there's just a lot of hate for the Ravens. Teams that we don't even face off against often got serious hatred for us. So yeah, a lot of hatred from the fan bases, and yeah, the way they're perceived by some people will be different. Now, again, business is business, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't think a lot of these organizations are gonna care. I don't, because again, this is a league that operates on business. It's a business league. You may not like how they went about business, but business is business. And a lot of these other teams, if it doesn't affect them, they could care less what that guy did to them. You think Kansas City cares about what the Ravens did to Las Vegas? No. Philadelphia is trying to finesse somebody to get A.J. Brown away. They're trying to finesse somebody to give away A.J. Brown so that they can get huge capital, and whoever gets A.J. Brown, well, best of luck with that. How he's trying to finesse somebody? If Baltimore knocks on his door right now, if EDC calls him up right now and says, I'll take that deal for A.J. Brown, you think he's not going to trade with them because of how he handled the situation with the Raiders? No. These guys are businessmen. They could really care less about the overall outlook of things. So I'm not even concerned about this from a business perspective. The overall optics is not good, and the way they're viewed by many fan bases is they're going to be extremely hated. But in terms of how things are going to go between EDC and other GMs and other teams, nah. Like I said, it's a business league. There's not a single GM that's going to automatically stop doing business with the Ravens because of how they handle the situation with the Raiders. It's a league that focuses on business. It's a business-driven league. The other GMs are going to do what they do. So, like EDC said, which I'll get into that, like EDC said, his phone has not stopped ringing. These other organizations are not going to stop talking with the Ravens just because of the morality aspect in terms of the optics of how this is, because it seems from a morality standpoint, it looks like they finesse the Raiders and pull something slimy, which is why they're getting a lot of backlash and hate from fan bases. But from a business standpoint, nobody really cares. And you're getting people come down and say, oh, good luck finding any other organization that's going to work with the Ravens. Yeah, I doubt these other organizations really care. I can tell you this right now. Like I said 2 minutes ago, if EDC called up Howie Roseman and agreed to that draft capital or that haul to get A.J. Brown, you think Howie Roseman's going to say no because of what EDC may or may not have done to the Raiders? No, he's not going to care. He's going to take that first-round pick, second-round pick, and player, and he's going to ship off A.J. Brown. Good doing business with you, EDC. Like, these other organizations aren't going to stop talking with the Ravens and negotiating potential trades with the Ravens just because of what happened from a standpoint of this is bad optics. They're still going to do what they do. It's a business-driven lead. These GMs don't care about optics. They're here to do their jobs. So the optics won't look great in terms of how the media is going to look at the Ravens, how the fans are going to look at the Ravens. But the GMs, the people that actually hold those positions, you think they're going to stop a trade with the Ravens that might benefit their team because of how they looked while handling the situation with the Raiders? Come on, bro. Let's stop lying to ourselves. It's a business-driven lead. These GMs don't care about that. They're trying to make moves to improve their team and give their team a chance to compete, or at least to do their job. If it's to tank, they're going to tank professionally. If it's to put them out as many pieces as possible, try to help their team compete for a title, that's what they're going to do. It's a business-driven lead. They don't care about no damn morality looks. So we ain't really got to worry about that at all. Anywho, this situation with Max Crosby, it was reported that he failed his physical And they looked at the medical records, and long term, they didn't feel comfortable taking this risk. It was then also reported that they were actually trying to renegotiate the deal with the Raiders because they wanted to they wanted to probably give up less because of what they had seen from those medical records. And the Raiders were not budging. They wanted those 2 first-round picks. So the Ravens chose to back out of the deal. And that's how things go. Now, new news that was brought up a little bit later in the day, and I believe Adam Schefter was the one that had first brought this up, or maybe had gotten that report from someone else. But Adam Schefter did say before 5 o'clock, this was early on, before EDC got a chance to speak, which, by the way, EDC had a press conference, like I said early on, and he spoke about this situation. But a little bit later into the day, Adam Schefter reported that the Ravens were trying to pull off a massive heist. They were trying to pull off one hell of an offseason move. What they were trying to do was not get Max Crosby or Trey Hendrickson. Apparently, Baltimore was trying to pull off a situation where they could end up with both. They traded their 2 first-round picks to get Max Crosby. And then they also tried to go get Trey Hendrickson to pair up with Max Crosby. So apparently, EDC was trying to do something he had never done. He was trying to be ultra aggressive and pull off a move that would have been insane. He was trying to pair up Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson together. At least that's the reports we have gotten. Now, based off of the optics that's being presented here, many people think that's just a lie or a cover-up. You believe what you want to believe. But Adam Schefter reported it. There have been several reports that this has been the case. We had gotten that a little bit later in the day, that apparently the Ravens' plan, or the Ravens, the last couple of days, were making a strong attempt to try and sign Trey Hendrickson so he can pair up with Max Crosby. Now, that's going to be such a what-if moment for the Ravens. That is going to be a major what-if moment. Because on one hand, doing that not only fixes your pass rushing situation, that arguably gives you the toughest, excuse me, that arguably gives you the toughest and the best front seven in football. If you were to have paired up Trey Hendrickson and Max Crosby, that's the best pass rushing unit in the league. That would have been a massive deal. Now, it would have taken a crap ton of money off the cap, but it would have been one hell of a deal if EDC was serious about pulling that off. So we had gotten that reports, and of course, because of optics and how people were looking at the Ravens, nobody's buying the idea that EDC was trying to do that. So it is what it is when it comes to that. So the Trey Hendrickson deal happens, and then we're going about the day, and as we're getting closer and closer to 4 p.m., I remembered there was one other thing that needed to be done. We're getting close to 4 p.m., something has to be done. And it legitimately escaped my mind until about, 2 hours beforehand? All of a sudden, I was too busy focusing on the Max Crosby situation, the Trey Hendrickson situation. I completely forgot. We had still not gotten any news about the Lamar Jackson situation. Did he get a contract extension? Did they restructure his contract? What is the deal? Well, just before 4 p.m. reached, not exactly saying it was around 3, but before the deadline hit, today we got our answer. A lot of us was hoping the Ravens could have got the extension done with the Lamar Jackson to lower the cap space. Unfortunately, they were not able to get it done in time. They're still negotiating an extension. It's probably going to take a long time to get that done. There's a possibility they don't get that done this offseason and it goes into 2027, in which the Ravens fans will have to stress that entire offseason about whether or not they can get that situation done. But they still got time this offseason to get it done. And honestly, they have between now and training camp, because once training camp starts, Lamar is not going to negotiate his contract during training camp. He doesn't really like to do that. And of course, once the season starts, it's really over. You might have a chance during training camp, but he rather just, once it's time to get back on the field and do work, Lamar would prefer to just focus on the work instead of his contract. And he's not going to answer any questions about his contract situation. So once they get back on the field, yeah, it's probably a wrap on the contract negotiations. But Yeah, they were unable to get a contract extension done with Lamar. However, EDC was able to get a restructure. So they restructured Lamar Jackson's contract and they saved $40 million in cap space. Or at least they were able to gain $40 million in cap space. Because Lamar was set to make about $74.5 million. And thanks to this $40 million cap space they were able to save with his restructure, he'll be making $34.5 million this season. I think he'll probably be making around $80 million next year, which means he'll have to get the extension done one way or another. But yeah, they restructured Lamar Jackson's deal. They get $40 million in cap space, and due to the Max Crosby deal essentially being returned, the 30 plus million in cap space they were about to give to Max Crosby, they got that back. So with Max Crosby going back, the Ravens got their 2 first-round draft picks, got that extra 30 million in cap space. You put that together with the 40 million they got from Lamar, and the Ravens ended up gaining 70 million in cap space to do something. Now, of course, this 70 million does not include the signings that they made, which of course will be Trey Hendrickson, who's getting 28 million a year, and also Simpson, who's going to get 10 million a year. So yeah, as well as a few others, which we'll get into that next. So I think at the end of the day, they probably are going to have somewhere between 25 and 30 million. I'll say maybe what? Let's put 20 to 30 million of cap space to utilize. 20 to 30 million is probably going to be the range that we can have for them in terms of cap space to utilize in free agency. So they still can go make a move or do what they're doing right now. So after getting that restructure done for Lamar Jackson and finally having the cap space to do something, the Ravens proceeded to make a few other moves. So obviously we know the Ravens signed Trey Hendrickson, so that is a deal that has to be honored. But after getting that situation done, Baltimore went to work because they had cap space they needed to make. They have cap space that they could finally use to get some of these players that they were looking to get in free agency. So once they were able to free up cap space, obviously the Trey Hendrickson deal, they've already put that out there. The next thing the Ravens wanted to do was to make sure they retained somebody from free agency, because they haven't really done a lot other than retaining Tyler Huntley. They had not really retained any of their free agents. EDC went to work to retain one of our guys. The Ravens were able to bring back Chidobe Awuzie. I believe it's on a 1-year deal worth $5 million. Yes, they were able to bring back Chidobe Awuzie, cornerback Chidobe Awuzie, on a 1-year $5 million deal. So he'll be back next year for the Ravens. Obviously, that ends up solving the issue they had with the cornerback situation. That does not mean they won't draft a corner, but they did need another corner for that situation, which is why many were pushing the Ravens to go and either sign one of these corners in free agency or bring back Chidobe Awuzie. They brought back Awuzie. The issue that was there is no longer there, but they will still draft a corner for depth. The next thing the Ravens did was go and sign former New England Patriots safety Jalen Hawkins to a 2-year, $10 million deal. So he is here to be the number 3 safety in Baltimore, right next to Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks. Now, I'll sit back and say this. The Chidobe Awuzie signing, that was a nice signing, bringing back. We know what Awuzie brings to the table. He was the best corner we had last year. He played the most consistent at the cornerback position for the Ravens last year. So bringing him back was a great thing. But getting Jalen Hawkins, that was a good move, man. Jalen Hawkins was a really good player for the Patriots last year. He had 4 interceptions. The guy was very, very effective. He was very, very effective. He played really well, man. He played really well for the Patriots. This is a really good move here. A really good decision. He was great, man. And the best part about it is Jalen Hawkins, he can play both free safety and strong safety. He can play both those spots, which works perfectly for Jesse Minter, that is going to be utilizing Kyle Hamilton all over the damn defense. So keep in mind, Jalen can play both free safety and strong safety. So he's got a little versatility there in that safety position. He can play both spots, which is going to bode wonders for what Jesse Minter is looking to do with Kyle Hamilton, which is why they went and got him in the first place. So this is a really good deal here. This is a really good deal. You lost Ardarius Washington. You lost Alohi Gilman. You get Jalen Hawkins, who is a better safety than both those guys. So this is a really good signing, a really smart pickup by the Ravens. This is a really, really good deal. In all honesty, this might be low-key the best deal the Ravens made today because Trey Hendrickson was an obvious pick. That was an obvious gimme that the Ravens could not afford to lose. By the way, they signed Trey Hendrickson on a 4-year deal worth up to $120 million. There are some incentives there. It's essentially going to be a 4-year, $112 million deal. So essentially, the Ravens are paying Trey Hendrickson $28 million a year. Now, of that 112, I believe 60 million is guaranteed. So technically $30 million in year one, $30 million in year two, that is guaranteed, which works for the Ravens because this is a 31-year-old pass rusher that does have a little bit of an injury history. It's not a lengthy injury history. He's actually played a lot in his career, but it's just something that he's been recently dealing with. So he's been dealing with that hip situation. He's coming off of that injury and dealing with that whole process. So getting him on a 4-year deal, but having 2 of it be guaranteed works for them, especially if, after 2 years, he's not looking to be the guy that he initially looked when you signed him. You could look to move off him as well. But, that's if it comes down to that. The Henderson deal was a gimme. This deal here was a really good move by the Ravens. The Hawkins deal is probably the best move the Ravens made today. No doubt about it. It was the best move they made today. And then the Ravens made one last move here. I need to check this. Just in case. Yep, it's exactly what I thought. The Ravens made one more move. The Ravens went out and they signed free agent tight end Durham Smythe. Basically, here's the thing. The Smythe deal is very simple. They didn't bring back Charlie Kolar, who was their best blocking tight end. Smythe was a fantastic blocking tight end for the Chicago Bears. Smythe is essentially the replacement for Charlie Kolar. So they fixed that specific aspect that was missing. And again, they'll have that middle spot, which they definitely want to get. They could obviously use that to draft the tight end in the draft. And that will be the replacement that's going to fit that spot that Isaiah Likely had. So if they want 3 tight ends, they'll draft one in the draft. But they did need a blocking tight end, and Smythe was the perfect pick because he is a great blocking tight end. I don't know if I would say great, but he's a really, honestly, I don't know too much about him, but he is a great blocking tight end, at least from what I've heard here. Let's see. Well, he's a blocking tight end. I think he was a pretty good blocking tight end. Some are saying pretty good. Others are saying great. Either way, he was the blocking tight end for the Chicago Bears. This move makes 100% sense. 100% sense is crazy. This move makes total sense. That's what I wanted to say. This move makes total sense. Smythe played with Chicago last year. Who was in Chicago last year? Declan Doyle. It makes sense. You're going to go get a guy that has worked with Declan Doyle and worked in the offensive system that Declan Doyle was a part of last year, and will probably take a lot of what he had seen in that offensive scheme and bring it here to Baltimore. So somebody that's already going to know what that looks like is coming to join Baltimore. You lost Charlie Kolar. This is your replacement. Smythe is the replacement for Kolar. So, in all honesty, after getting those 2 first-round picks back, and then pivoting to Trey Hendrickson, Baltimore adds to that pass rushing situation, which they desperately need. So they fix that aspect. They still need an interior defensive lineman, which they're going to have to either go in free agency and pick somebody up, or they're going to have to draft them. But they addressed the need in edge. They brought back Chidobe Awuzie, so they addressed the cornerback situation, which they needed. They could still draft another They could still draft an interior defensive lineman in a corner if they want. But in terms of free agent moves that you wanted to address, they addressed the pass rush. They addressed the cornerback situation. They then went and addressed the tight end situation involving losing Charlie Kolar. You get Kolar's replacement, you bring in Smythe. They also addressed the safety situation because they had lost both Alohi Gilman and Ardeas Washington. But they got a better safety in Hawkins. So they addressed safety, they addressed corner, which were two spots they had to address. They addressed pass rush, and they addressed tight end. So those are 4 spots the Ravens had to address. They still need to address the interior defensive line. They still need to get a center. They still need some more offensive linemen. And then they still need to figure out this wide receiver situation, because I think they may want to add another wide receiver, specifically because Dayton Wade being your wide receiver 4, that's not exactly what you're looking for. And even if that's all you're looking for, you still want to add a receiver or 2, because you like to have 6 receivers and have at least 4 of them available like you had before. You lost Tyler Wallace, free agent, DeAndre Hopkins, free agent. You're probably going to want to bring in maybe 1 or 2 more receivers via free agency. So receivers still something they're going to have to look out for. Offensive linemen, both with the center and the interior offensive lineman with the guard position. Interior defensive line. They've got a few spots they need to address. Today, they address the safety situation, the corner situation, the pass rusher situation, and the tight end situation. Now, I don't know if the Ravens want to keep 3 tight ends, because I don't know if that's what Declan Doyle's system's going to be. But if they want a 3rd tight end, this is a good tight end draft. They could obviously look to draft the tight end. So if they want another tight end, they can address that in the draft. But they really addressed a couple good spots. All in all, today was probably the best day for the Ravens. It was a chaotic day that turned madness, but considering the fact that yesterday everything had blown up in your face, and today you end up not getting Max Crosby, but you end up getting Trey Hendrickson, which still addresses your pass rushing situation, and then you end up addressing your corner situation, your safety situation, and your tight end situation. You're in a much better place today. Now, you're not done. You still want to add to that interior defensive line. And it looks like they really wanted to add another pass rusher and try to do this whole Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson thing. At least that was according to the reports, which we will get back into. But they're not done with the D-line. They still have to add pieces there. And of course, the offensive line, they have to still address it. So the Ravens still have a bunch of holes that they have to figure out, but they're in a much better place today than they were in yesterday and the day before. So they were able to turn things around real quick. Yes, you lose out on Max Crosby, but you were able to address a lot of positions, and you still got your 2 first-round draft picks. Now, if you want to trade one of them to go make a big splash play to go get somebody else, you're free to do so. And I'm pretty sure with the way EDC's been talking, and this revelation that he was trying to pair up, which again, people don't fully believe that, and that's totally fair. But if the speculations are true, if the reports are true that he wanted to pair up Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson, then that means EDC is going to aim big, and he's going to make another huge deal. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, all in all, this is this was a huge turnaround for the Ravens today, given the so-called situation, man. But yeah, this was a crazy day that turned around, and again, this is going to be a conversation that's going to be had for quite some time. You know, did Baltimore dodge a bullet by backing out of this deal? We'll find out. If it works in their favor, if it works in their favor, then that means they dodged a huge bullet. But by dodging that huge bullet, everyone's going to look at them and say, you did it in a very scummy way. You realize you made the mistake, and you chose to back out of it in the worst way possible, and then you immediately pivoted to an easier solution. People gonna be mad about that, but it is what it is. It's sports. It's a business. You don't have to like how teams are gonna go about business. It's fine, but GMs have to do what's best for their team, or else they're gonna be fired. And EDC again is on the hot seat. He has to do what's best for the team. He wanted Max Crosby badly, but the situation did not match up with what they were looking for, so they backed out of it. If you believe they backed out of it because they got cold feet and realized they lost everybody, if that's the story you want to go with, so be it. We will never really know the truth about the situation. We will never. People are presenting the information they have. We're getting the reports, and people are making their own assessments. There's no way we will truly know the answers. Everybody has their own opinions, and they're going to believe whatever they want to believe. That's just how things go. But all in all, if you're a Ravens fan, today was a chaotic day, but you leave this day satisfied with what they were able to accomplish today. Because you got your 2 first-round picks back, but you were also able to get that pass rusher and address several needs that needed to be fixed. There's still a lot of work left to do, but you're in a better place today than you were yesterday in terms of the team. In terms of the outlook and your reputation, that's a different conversation. So there's nothing we could do about that. Last but not least, the final thing I want to talk about today, because it's going to be a short stream. I just wanted to speak on this whole situation, so we're not going to drag this out much longer. Last thing I wanted to address, Eric DeCosta had a press conference today that was live on NFL Network at 5 p.m. today. In that press conference, he pretty much addressed the entire situation. Now, again, he wasn't detailed with everything that led to the breakdown, but he gave his thoughts and answered the questions that were given to him. So I'm going to go through this whole process here and speak on what EDC talked about in that press conference, or at least some of the things he covered. So, EDC at 5 p.m., he addressed the media and started off by speaking about how they were incredibly excited to add Max Crosby to their team, and they're ultimately disappointed that the situation didn't turn out the way they wanted to turn out. He didn't go into detail, but he did say that after they brought in Max Crosby, they were unable to complete the process of the trade. Part of that has to do with the fact that he did not pass the physical. He didn't talk about the medical aspect, but he did say they were unable to complete the process of the trade. So, that's what he specified. He also said he's a steward of the organization and he has to act with the organization's best interest in mind. So, yeah, he didn't specify if it was medical reasons as to why he backed out. We heard reports about Max Crosby failing the physical, but EDC did not want to speak on the medical aspects of what led to this happening, which, again, that's something you expect from all teams. Teams don't like putting out medical reports about certain players. They don't like to air that out to the media. That's not something that you share publicly. If you really want to burn bridges with GMs and other teams, share out medical in a trade situation that ends up breaking down. Share the medical records and say, you know what? The doctor showed us that his knee's not really going to last much longer and that he could end up potentially being out of the league in a few years. I'm not saying that's the case, but what if they saw something like that? If they saw something like that and revealed that to the media, the Ravens would never be trusted again. So EDC, again, cannot really reveal too much because that's just something you don't reveal. You will burn a lot of bridges with a lot of GMs and agents if you reveal that to the public. So it makes sense why he did not reveal the whole aspect there. Next up, they asked DeCosta about the Trey Hendrickson situation in terms of them negotiating a contract with them. And DeCosta was speaking on this situation and said that they actually started discussions with Trey Hendrickson right after Tyler Linderbaum left town. The focus was to sign Tyler Linderbaum to an extension, but they were unable to get it done, so EDC immediately pivoted towards trying to go get Trey Hendrickson. So apparently that's what happened. We spoke about this a little bit earlier. The media spoke on this and said that, or revealed to us that the Ravens were trying at the end to get Trey Hendrickson and Max Crosby on the field together with the Ravens, and they weren't able to get this done. You got a couple of the comments about how EDC's upset by this not going down, says it's unfortunate that this didn't happen. It's tough. The usual stuff when something like this happens. The next thing that he was asked after speaking on the Crosby and Hendrickson situation 5 times in a row or whatever, after speaking on that for a while, someone asked the Ravens about their decision to restructure Lamar Jackson's deal and how negotiations are going for a contract extension involving this in terms of how long is that going to take, or how are things going, and is it closer? They just didn't go into that aspect, but they just were asking about how the contract situation is going because the Ravens chose to restructure his contract. And EDC pretty much specified that unfortunately they were unable to get a contract extension done in time. They just ran out of time, which is why they chose to restructure his contract. But he's still hopeful they will be able to reach an agreement. They're going to continue discussions, but at the end of the day, nothing is concrete right now, and it is a work in progress. Next up, they asked EDC about the offensive line. Now that you've lost Tyler Linderbaum, what is the plan there? You also have the situation with your interior offensive line, with your guard situation that you are trying to improve. What's going to happen there? And EDC basically said that he plans to bring in a few offensive linemen over the next couple weeks. So whoever they can get their hands on, they're going to get their hands on and try to see if they can bring in something of quality, which includes bringing in a quality center, or at least a serviceable center. They'll still probably look to draft a center, but they want to bring in a veteran one and then work to see who can win the competition in camp. They also asked him one last thing before things ended, because it ended off with him talking about the Max Crosby situation even more, so I'm not going to address that. But one last thing that was asked of him was in regards to the perception of this situation, because the media asked him how he feels about the perception, and more so, do you think, because a lot of people were saying that the Ravens backing out of this deal and doing what they did was a scumbag move, it was a slimy move, and because they did this, it's going to severely affect other GMs and agents calling them and negotiating contracts, or calling them and trying to work out a trade for players. So there people have been insinuating that the Ravens are no longer going to be able to make trades with any other team because no other GM is going to trust them. And EDC basically said, yeah, all those talks, that's basically crap. He didn't say those words specifically, but he legit said, my phone hasn't stopped ringing. So, if you guys are trying to tell me that agents and GMs are not going to reach out to us because of that, I'm letting you know right now, my phone hasn't stopped ringing. So I do not believe this situation is going to affect anything here, because we have a great relationship with a lot of agents and GMs. That's essentially what he said. We got great relationships with a lot of GMs and agents, and his phone has not stopped ringing. So he doesn't think the overall backlash that the Ravens are getting is going to somehow affect their ability to negotiate contracts with agents or be able to work out a deal for a trade. They'll still be able to work out stuff with GMs, and they'll still be able to negotiate contracts with agents. The backlash is not going to change yet. At least that's what EDC says. And that's pretty much it in regards to this whole situation. Crazy day. You lose Max Crosby when you back out of the Max Crosby deal yesterday, and today you immediately pivot. You sign Trey Hendrickson. You restructure Lamar's contract to gain $40 million in cap space, and then you re-sign Chidobe Awuzie to address the corner situation. You sign Jalen Hawkins to address the safety situation, and then you sign Durham Smythe to address the tight end situation. So you addressed 4 needs today because you lost Max Crosby, so you were back to 0. You addressed 4 needs today and got your 2 first-round picks, and you got cap space to work. So all in all, this was a good turnaround for EDC given the circumstances. I said this yesterday. He's going to have to scramble and work fast because if he can't get anything done today, he's going to be in a bad situation. And he got a lot done today and addressed the media for the backlash that the Ravens are getting in this situation. So all in all, this was a very eventful day for the Ravens. I cannot wait to see how things are going to go moving forward. I would love a quiet day tomorrow, but things don't always go the way we want it to go. But anyway, that's pretty much it for me today. I don't have anything else to say about the situation. Pretty much wanted to give a brief insight or a brief discussion about how things are going here. There's still conversations on social media about the overall outlook of the situation, whether the Ravens should be punished, yada, 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 pretty much things like that. I'm not going to get into that here. I'm not really going to speak about that here, but it's endless conversations, endless discussions, endless what do I want to say? Endless conspiracy theories that are being thrown up. So it is what it is at the end of the day. There's nothing else we could really do past that. It is what it is. So people are free to believe what they want to believe. People are free to assess the situation however they want to assess it. At the end of the day, I'm moving forward. There's nothing else for me to believe. You are free to believe whatever you want to believe. At the end of the day, the reports are the reports. The press conference is the press conference. You don't have to believe what EDC says. You don't have to believe the reports. That's just how it is. I've always said this with reports and comments made from the players. These people are going to speak whatever they want to speak. You're free to assess it however you want. Whether you believe what they're saying is true or not is up to you. They could be speaking the truth and you don't have to believe it. They could be lying to your face and you could fully support it. You'll never really know. So if you don't believe EDC, that's fine. He could be telling the truth and you're just wrong. But he could also be lying and you could be seeing it. You'll never really know. At the end of the day, we move forward. We move forward. We still got a few other things that needs to be addressed, and we will address them as free agency goes on. We still got our 2 first-round picks, so hopefully EDC will look to make another splash play. But that remains to be seen. Let me take a look at these comments, and then I'm going to head on out of here because I absolutely got to head on out. Let's see here. Let's start from the top. Couple things. Yeah, you're right. You called it to a T. You was right. Yeah, I mean, it was very, very, very predictable that the Ravens were going to do that. So, yeah. Not even an overpay either. Yeah, it was not an overpay. Yeah, and I know you're definitely pissed that Trey went to the Ravens and he took less than what the Bengals offered him. That is crazy. Bengals fans showed signs of life, now back on life support. Nah, it's not a Max Crosby situation. Trey Hendrickson is still great. I mean, again, Trey Hendrickson he can still go out there and wreck teams, and the Bengals won't be on life support. They'll just be furious. Because if it's Max Crosby, it's like, bro, we on life support, why? But it's Trey Hendrickson, who's still going to ball out and do his thing, but the problem is he left Cincinnati to go to Baltimore, and he took less money than what Cincinnati was offering him. So now it doesn't matter if he's a game wrecker. It doesn't matter if he ends up destroying Joe Burrow in Cincinnati every time he meets them. That's not going to put them on life support. It's just going to piss them off even more. They're angry that he chose to go to the other side. People are saying he's no longer allowed to be in the Cincinnati Ring of Honor, which, I mean, okay. I'm sorry, bro. Listen, when you're a poverty franchise, Ring of Honor, what is that supposed to do? Like, I could really start something here with Cincinnati, and they'll just take endless shots at the Ravens. They're free to do so. But I'm like, bro, Cincinnati's a poverty franchise. What is a Ring of Honor going to really do? Oh, Trey Hendrickson can't be in the Cincinnati Ring of Honor. Boo-hoo. I mean, this isn't the Steelers we're talking about. That's a storied franchise. I control the Steelers all I want. They haven't won a playoff game in over a decade. They've got 6 championships, and that's a storied franchise. The Patriots are a storied franchise. That was a former dynasty. The Chiefs are now a storied franchise. The Cowboys, we trolled them. They haven't been in an MC Channel game in 30 years. They're still a storied franchise. Cincinnati? Okay. I mean, like, not being, if you missed out on the Steelers Ring of Honor, that's going to mean something. You missed out, the 49ers haven't won a Super Bowl for as long as the Cowboys haven't won one. That's a storied franchise. You got some amazing legends there. And Cincinnati's got their legends, but I mean, like, you miss out on Cincinnati's Ring of Honor. Is that supposed to hurt him? You can't be in Cincinnati's Ring of Honor. Okay? You're not a storied franchise. Who cares? You're still a franchise, you're still a team, and you're going to have a Ring of Honor. But again, you're not a storied franchise. It's not going to hurt. Pittsburgh can be garbage for 30 years. They've got 6 championships, and they've got an array of Hall of Famers and NFL legends that are in the Ring of Honor. Like, if I'm a defensive player like Trey Hendrickson is, if this was like TJ Watt leaving, going to the Ravens, and they're like, you're not going to be in the Steelers Ring of Honor, that means something. Because TJ Watt's the best defensive player they've had since the old days when they had Polamalu and wow, what I thought I was going to sneeze. Ah, man, I thought I was going to sneeze. Yeah, sorry. I felt like a sneeze was coming out. But yeah, like Polamalu and Harrison and all those other guys. Like, again, those are legends. Like, the 49ers, you're not going to be in the 49ers Ring of Honor? I want to be there with Joe Montana and Jerry Rice and all those other legends. Missing out on the Cincinnati Ring of Honor? Come on, bro. Like, I'm not even joking. It's like the same thing with Cleveland. At least Cleveland still has, Jim Brown? And we still, yeah, I named Harrison as well. I named Harrison. I was sneezing. I wasn't like, I thought I was about to sneeze. But yeah, I named Harrison. Those were the two that definitely named for sure. I named Harrison. I said Harrison and Polamalu. But yeah, like, the Browns got Jim Brown, but they're also another franchise that's just like that. But like, legitimately, Cincinnati hasn't won anything. Ring of Honor, I'm supposed to be hurt because I can't be in the Ring of Honor for the Cincinnati Bengals. I saw Bengals fans throwing that out there, and I'm like, first of all, he'll probably still end up in the Ring of Honor if they felt he did enough production-wise to be in the Ring of Honor. That's just number one. Number two, I don't think he's going to lose sleep over not being in the Cincinnati Bengals Ring of Honor. Hey, franchise ain't won no championship. They supposed to care? Again, I'm sorry, bro. I feel bad, man. I feel bad because, like, yeah, the Browns, yeah, they also have Joe Thomas, who's going to be in the Ring of Honor. That's a Hall of Famer as well, you know. It's all good, but it's like when you're talking about a poverty franchise that's never won anything, at least, I mean, with the Browns, it's different. They didn't win a Super Bowl, but they won like 1 million championships. Jim Brown is arguably the greatest player to ever play this game. The level of respect we got for Jim Brown is different. So they didn't. The Browns ain't won no Super Bowls, but they won a crap ton of NFL championships and stuff. Same thing with Philadelphia before they won their rings. So it's like, I'm not saying nothing about the NFL championship or something like that. I'm just saying, like, Cincinnati, what have they won as a franchise? They're a poverty team, and it's not like they're the Jets, who are also a poverty franchise, but they sold their soul so they can get that one title when they upset the Baltimore Colts, and that's the only title they're probably ever gonna get because they sold their soul for that title. That's just how it goes. So I don't think Trey Hendrickson's going to be losing sleep over potentially missing out on the Bengals Ring of Honor. I'm sorry, man. It's just when fans of poverty franchises be saying things like that as if it's going to be significant. It's like, okay, he doesn't get to be in the Ring of Honor for a franchise that's never done anything. He ain't won anything. Like, is that supposed to hurt him? Is that supposed to affect him? That's not affecting his Hall of Fame case. If Trey Hendrickson ends up going to Canton, I don't think he's going to give a damn if he's not in the Cincinnati Bengals Ring of Honor. So fans throwing that up, like, if you were just throwing the classic, I hate you now, you're an op forever, cool. I'm all for Bengals hating on Trey Hendrickson and calling him an op because he switched to the other side for a lesser deal or for lesser money. I understand that. But for the people that were saying he's no longer allowed to be in the Ring of Honor, As if that's supposed to mean something. You are a poverty franchise. Who cares about your Ring of Honor? I'm glad you have some legends. I'm glad you have some legends. Obviously, I love Ocho Cinco. Glad you have some legends, but dude, you are a poverty franchise. Ain't nobody care. Ain't nobody care. You're honestly on the verge of wasting away the greatest offensive trio you've had in franchise history. You're wasting the careers of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. Probably not going to win anything with those three guys because you're a poverty franchise. And even when you have generational talent at the quarterback position and the wide receiver position, you still find a way to mess it up. Poverty franchise is going to poverty franchise. It is what it is. I don't know why I took shots at Cincinnati here. It's just I found that hilarious, and I don't know why poverty franchises like to do this to players that choose to leave and go play for the other enemy. Like when Bill Belichick resigned from the Jets, you think he cared about what Jets fans had to say? You'll never be remembered in New York here. Okay, and? Like, is he supposed to care? When you're a poverty franchise, you can't be throwing these things around because that don't mean anything. That don't mean anything. You are a poverty franchise. They don't get to be in your Ring of Honor. Ooh, that's tough. Hi, man. It's definitely got to be tough being a fan of a poverty franchise. The Ravens aren't the Ravens aren't a storied franchise. Like I said, we're not the Steelers. The Ravens aren't a storied franchise. They've won multiple titles, but they're not a storied franchise. But at least I have something to look forward to. I have something to look back at. There's a legacy here. And at least our legendary players got championships. Like when I talk about Ray Lewis, he's got two. When I talk about Ray Lewis, he's won here. Ed Reed's won here. Terrell Suggs won here. Jonathan Ogden. Our guys have won championships here. Our Hall of Famers, the guys that are in the Ring of Honor, they sitting there with a ring. That means something. I'm not going to lie. That means something, bro. That means something. Without a storied franchise. The Steelers are a storied franchise. That's why they can run their mouth, because their legends that are sitting in their Ring of Honors, they're sitting there with championships. That means something. You don't got to like it, but that means something. When you talk about Ring of Honor, you were a legendary player for that team. That's great. You deserve to be honored. I'm not taking away from the honor of being in the Ring of Honor. I'm making fun of the fans that think throwing around the Ring of Honor when a guy leaves in free agency and goes somewhere else is somehow supposed to hurt him. I'm all for players getting in the Ring of Honor, especially if they... I don't care if the team's poverty or not. If you had a legendary career somewhere and you never left, like a Joe Thomas, never left Cleveland, Hall of Famer, legendary guy, absolutely deserves to be in the Ring of Honor. That's great. That's nice. He was fantastic his entire career for the Browns. But if he would have chosen at some point in his prime to leave and go play for the Steelers, and Browns fans would have said, you don't deserve to be in the Ring of Honor after going to the Steelers. Okay? Is that supposed to hurt him? He left the poverty franchise to go join up with a story franchise, and he's supposed to care that you guys are saying he's not going to be in the Ring of Honor? I just find that funny that fans wanted to use that against Trey Hendrickson. That was hilarious to me. So that was hilarious to me in that situation. But anyway, let me continue with these comments as we call it a day here, because it's 11:14 and I actually do have something I have to do afterwards. Let's see, where was I? Oh yeah, I was talking about the Bengals. The Ravens are in a better position today than they were before free agency and after we traded for Crosby. That is true. Lamar did free up some cap space as well. What's up, man? Trey Hendrickson's a Raven. Love it. But what hurt is what I heard. When I heard we could have both Crosby and Trey Hendrickson. Damn, just imagine both. It's okay. We got Trey Hendrickson, though. Go Ravens. Again, it would have been a very tough stretch to get both. Even if they wanted that, if that's a story that's been said by EDC, and that was a story that was reported by Adam Schefter. If that's true, that's cool, but realistically, I don't know how they would make that work. You'd be paying two guys like $60+ million in your cap. Realistically, I don't think they would have been able to pull that off, but, you know, it would have been interesting to see them try. But, you know, that's how that goes. What's going on, Daniel? Appreciate you stopping by. Ravens up to something very big. They're at least taking swings. You can't say EDC's not taking swings. He's at least trying. Ravens need to get the guard from Penn State. I don't know which guard that is. I don't look into draft. You guys are the ones that really keep me locked in with certain picks in college football. But I would take absolutely anyone from Penn State. I'll take an offensive lineman from Penn State. I would take an offensive lineman for Penn State for sure. The Ravens' reputation is fine. Only the Raiders hate us. No, the entire AFC North hates us, which makes sense. The Bills hate us. The Giants hate us now because of the Harbaugh situation. Chicago's thrown a lot of hate towards us recently. Dallas got some hate for us for a couple things, and now the Raiders are next on the hate train. So apparently we're hated by a lot of teams. And the Colts may have something to say about us too because we stole Trey Hendrickson from them. So yeah, it is what it is. Bro, who cares? This is in high school. It's about winning a Super Bowl. Of course. But, people are in positions of power, and if they get their feelings hurt, they may retaliate. It's unfortunate, but some adults and some grown people, they have a thing called pride, and if you hurt their pride, they're going to retaliate the best way they can by not negotiating with you. It's childish, but it is something certain individuals will choose to do. It has happened before. Screw the other teams. We fleeced the league. That's funny. They care about the outcome, not the outlook. The focus is on the results. I agree. How y'all feel about bringing Cam Jordan in to help? I've seen people throw out Cam Jordan. I've seen people throw out, hey, Calais Campbell still got something to take. I don't know what the Ravens are going to go after. They do need interior defensive line help, so they could look to go after those guys, even though they're old. They're cheap, and they could use some cheap deals right now, so it's possible. It is what it is, but it is definitely possible. What's going on, Sam? Congratulations to Bam Adebayo. Yeah, that was great to see Bam get 83 points. Funny enough, you thought the Max Crosby discourse was toxic. The Bam Adebayo scoring 83 points has been completely toxic all last night. In fact, Bam Adebayo scoring 83 points completely took my attention away from Max Crosby. Last night, I was watching the active discourse in regards to that. I was laughing, man. Oh, my God. The Kobe fans are legit heated right now. It bled into today. The media was talking about it. There was a lot of conversation about Bam, 83 points. If you actually watched the game, you would see that how it went. Because in totality, honestly, Bam had 31 points through the first quarter. He was cooking them. He had 43 after the first half. He cooked the hell out of the Wizards. Nobody could stay in front of him. Nobody could guard him. Those fouls were legit. Through three quarters, he had 62 points in the franchise high. Through three quarters, Bam Adebayo was just cooking everybody in front of him. He was hitting some tough and ones. He was getting hacked throughout the entire game and still finishing on some tough and ones. So through 3 games, it was a legendary performance, in its own right. The first half, but then you get into that fourth quarter. The first half of the fourth quarter, it was still well within the range of nobody having any question marks about the game. But the last 5 minutes of the game, that was some shameless basketball. We can't lie. And I'm all for the shameless behavior because you have a chance to go put your name in history. Who knows how Bam Adebayo's career is going to go down the stretch? Will he make the Hall of Fame? I don't know. What is Bam going to be remembered if he doesn't win a championship or an MVP or a Defensive Player of the Year or any of that? This is a way he keeps his name in the history books. He did something that hasn't been done for at least 20 years, and now he's the second all-time leading scorer. I'm sorry, not all-time leading scorer. He now has the second highest scoring performance in NBA history. Wilt, Bam, Kobe. He put his name in the history books. 83 points is 83 points. However you get it is however you get it. We can recognize that the last 5 minutes of the game was shameless behavior by the Miami Heat because there were times where they were actively trying to intentionally foul the Wizards just so they can get the ball back. Now, they weren't intentionally fouling a lot, but there were times where they were actively just giving up easy layups or easy looks just so they can get the ball back. They wanted quick possessions by the Wizards. Meanwhile, the Wizards were double teaming and triple. Bam will never get triple teamed again in his life. Bam will never be in the position where he's getting triple teamed on an out, legitimately an out of bounds pass. They're trying to inbound the ball, an inbound pass, and he's getting triple teamed. Bam has never seen a triple team in his life. And yet here he is on a random Tuesday night against the Washington Wizards, and he's getting triple teamed. Because the Wizards are doing everything in their power to make sure he doesn't break Kobe's record. He deserves him. Proud of Bam. Legendary moment for him. Legendary moment for his career. He will be in the history book, and that is a performance that will be remembered. However you feel about it is however you feel about it. It was a legendary moment. But yeah, the discourse about that has been 1,000 times worse than the discourse about the Max Crosby situation. Oh boy, the Kobe fans, man. Kobe fans haven't had a reason to hate in a long time. This gave them all the fuel they need, and boy, they've been going at it. Also, oh my God, bro. Listen, I hate the Celtics, which means I have to hate Jason Tatum. I'm not gonna lie, man. The Jason Tatum strays have been crazy. They've been taking too many shots at Tatum. He just got back, and because of the situation, oh my God, the amount of shots that Tatum made. Somebody made a comment that was so egregious. It was such a horrible shot at Tatum. Someone legit said Tatum would get 81 and then purposely sub himself out and then go text Kobe. And I'm like, damn. That's brutal. Jason Tatum been taking shots, man. He never gonna live down that text he made in 2022 in the NBA Finals, where he's like, I got you today. Obviously, Kobe had already passed at this point, but texting Kobe, I got you today, as he's in the 2022 NBA Finals, and then sharing that publicly. I don't think Tatum's ever gonna live that down, and people are never gonna stop clowning Tatum for that. Oh boy, so yeah, he took some strays. Oh, man, last night was crazy, man. Forget about the Max Crosby situation. Last night was crazy because of the Bam situation. Oh, boy. Anywho, let's get back into this. I get that people are upset, but this is football business, not holding each other's hands and playing at the playground. People are still they're still gonna feel however they want to feel. So it is what it is. Yeah, Jalen Hawkins was a good move. Yes, it was. EDC said he'll bring in 2 offensive linemen in the next couple weeks. I don't know if he said 2. He said a few, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe he said a few or maybe he said 2. I may have not heard that right. I thought he said he'd bring in a few offensive linemen, so more than 2, but maybe he did say 2. Either way, he's bringing in offensive linemen in the next couple weeks, which is to be expected. What do the Ravens need now for free agency? Well, they addressed the situation because they addressed the safety situation. They needed a third safety. They lost both Ardarius Washington and Alohi Gilman, so they needed that third safety. So they got that out the way. They needed to address the cornerback situation because, they needed that other corner, and they addressed that by going and re-signing Chidobe Awuzie. They needed to address the tight end situation because they wanted to get a blocking tight end. They had lost Charlie Kolar, so they needed to replace him. They replaced Charlie Kolar with what's his name? With Smythe, Durham Smythe. With Smythe. So they addressed safety, they addressed corner, they addressed tight end today. And obviously, Trey Hendrickson addresses the pass rushing situation. So the Ravens still need to address the interior offensive linemen. They need to address the center situation. They need to address the guard situation. They need to address the wide receiver situation, which they probably will via free agency. They also need to address the interior defensive line situation. The Ravens got probably like 4 or 5 spots they still need to address. And they could look to address that both in free agency and in the draft. And based on how things are going to go, they'll probably want to sign a veteran for each one of those spots. And since they have 11 picks, they'll probably draft some players in those positions so that they can have veterans and rookies, and they'll go into camp and battle it out. Whoever wins gets the best spots. That might just be the way they're going to go about this. But yeah, they got about 4 or 5 needs. So we'll see how they go. I don't believe a word EDC says. You are entitled to feel that way. He's a slimy, craven weasel. You are entitled to feel that way. You think Zay Flowers would make the same money as Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Soon JSN? No, he's not making that type of money. But he would make money. He would make money that is fair to where his market will be. But he's not making Justin Jefferson money. That's insane. Unless if he puts up an 1,800 yard season. If he has like 1,800 yards and 10 touchdowns next year, sure, conversations can be made. But I don't see that happening. Trey Hendrickson is not Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, or Myles Garrett, but since he's still... I mean, he has numbers that is up there with those guys. So, it is what it is. My friend is a Ravens fan. He's somewhat happy Trey is in Baltimore, but he's still pissed off. Crosby's no longer a Raven. But we're gonna see a movie next week. Hey man, at least you got something, I guess. What are your thoughts on your man's EDC? I mean, again, he's in a tough situation. Like I said, I told you guys way before the start of free agency. I said I'm going to assess the team after the draft. So whatever moves EDC makes between now and the draft, I'm going to be quiet about how I feel about the team's chances and how I feel about EDC and whether or not he's doing a good job or a bad job. So through the good and bad parts, we've been here through it, and I have not assessed him. I'm going to wait until after the draft to assess EDC as a whole. Right now, EDC was in a very tough place, and he got himself out of that tough place today and was able to make some smart moves. Hopefully, he can build on that, but I will absolutely speak more on him after the draft. In fact, we'll be here for round 1 of draft night, so we'll probably have to speak a little bit about whoever he picks if the Ravens still have their 14th pick. If he chooses to use that to go pull off a trade, then I don't have to stream the NFL draft, which I would love to not do. But, it is what it is. Content with Trey Hendrickson, a lot of people are. Still think we make another move. They're probably going to look to make another move. So we'll see. We will see. With that being said, guys, it is time for me to head on out of here. I wanted to keep this within an hour. Went a little bit overboard here, but it is what it is. Good talk, good discussion. I don't know if we'll be back tomorrow, but based off of how things have been going, we'll probably be back tomorrow because it's been a lot of discussions that are being made here. So yeah, we'll see what EDC does. We'll see what moves happen. We coming for y'all. We coming for y'all head Steelers gang making moves right now. That's cool. You guys are doing a good job. I like what you guys have been doing. I don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be for you guys next year, but you guys have been doing your thing. You guys have gotten some nice pieces, and I don't know what to make of a DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman wide receiver duo pairing. It's weird, but again, those are two talented receivers. You got who'd you get? Rico Dowell to pair up next to Warren. So I think you got some nice offensive pieces. Your offense technically should be better this year than it was last year. And if you choose to bring back Aaron Rodgers, best of luck with that. If you choose to go, I've heard some reports maybe Kirk Cousins could be on the way. Doubt that's the case, but if that happens, so be it. If you choose to go with Will Howard or whatever, so be it. Best of luck to you guys. I'm not really focused on what the Steelers are doing, but I've seen them make some good moves. But I'm just focused on what the Ravens can do because the Ravens have a lot of spots they have to figure out. They've started addressing some of those spots, but I think they're going to have to address those via free agency and the draft, and then we can assess where the Ravens are at. But I just think if this team's going to get to where they want to get to, they've got to address all the needs, and then the coaching staff's going to have to coach their ass off to get this team to where it needs to be. Well, that's why they hired these guys, so let's see what they can do. With that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow. Should I promise tomorrow? I don't want to be here tomorrow. If it's a quiet day and the Ravens make no moves, I will not stream tomorrow. I will stream Friday instead, because tomorrow's Thursday. I will stream Friday because I will be off on the weekends, and I don't mind streaming on Fridays because I know I can just sleep in. But streaming throughout the weekday, knowing I got to wake up in the morning to go to work, that can be tough. However, when it comes to situations like this, I will stream. If nothing happens with the Ravens tomorrow, I will see you guys Friday. If some more craziness ensues and the Ravens make some huge deal to go get a star player, we will be back here to talk about this tomorrow. If not, it is what it is. With that being said, I'm going to leave you guys. You all take care. Enjoy the rest of your night. I got to go finish up a few things, and then I'm going to go to sleep because I got work tomorrow. Not even today. This week's been kind of fast. We're very close to the weekend. I want to end off on a good note. But, yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. And, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow if some craziness happens. If not, I will see you Friday. With that being said, that is all I've got, and I'm out of here. Be sure to stay safe, and peace out.